Oh, all right. You usually don't let me get away with starting that late, so I can blame it on me instead of you because you just get after me. Welcome to the September issue of Speakers Bureau, and we have a program that I promise will provide with lasting great value, great learning, and I am excited about it myself. And I'm thinking that maybe we might even knock a couple of socks off with some of the presentations. So, and that's something to look forward to. We have a number of things going. I did want to announce before I forget, and that is that we have some space available for QSs or those seeking their QS in the months of October, which is the 6th of October, and November, which is the 3rd of November. In December, we are planning on having the, I don't know if the word is accepted to allow the word contest, but we are going to have a speech competition of sorts sponsored by Speakers Bureau, and we expect it to be in areas that are not covered by the district, which I'm not privy to announce what contest the district will be doing in the spring, but we will be doing something alternatively. So of the choices that can be done in our events would be tall tales, table topics, evaluation, humorous, and international. So we'll try to do something different than we do with real trophies. And maybe they may be recycled, but they are real trophies, and we'll make sure they get to those contestants who participate. And as far as other QSs who have presentation ideas they would like to present, or if you are working with someone, I think we have someone who is planning to speak in November, if I'm not mistaken. And I have a couple of other people who have talked to me about that possibility, but right now nothing is in absolute concrete. So if you have a presentation you'd like to do, or if you know someone, you're working with someone who would like to get their qualified speaker status, then let me know about that. I do want to brag that we are working intently with one Kiwanis club, and we expect to be working with a few more. I think we've sent out as many as a dozen of our QSs to give 20-minute presentations, and they have come back. The club that is getting those speakers have come back raving about what wonderful speakers we've gotten for them. So we're looking forward to continuing that relationship with some other clubs, Kiwanis, Rotary, and maybe some Lions clubs also. And a Chamber of Commerce, one of our attendees is regularly here, Marcus Van Holla, set me up with a contact with the Chamber of Commerce in Middle Valley. So they may be having some speakers also. With that, we are ready to get on to our first program. Now, I have a written introduction for Melissa's group, but I did want to say that I think probably most of you are Toastmasters. Most of you belong to a club, and somebody, somewhere, sometime in the past, went to a lot of trouble to get that club started. And they left a legacy. I like that term, leaving a legacy. You helped start a club, and you can look back years from now saying, wow, there's a club that I started, all those people that gained the benefit of Toastmasters, I can take some of the credit for what they have learned. So a reason for you to think about that, let alone the idea that you might need it to get your DTM. Okay, our program will be District 12 has been developing confident speakers and leaders and communicators for over the last 32 years, and they're still going strong. The growth team, club growth team, is working hard in supporting our existing clubs while creating a variety of new corporate and community clubs. Tonight, you will learn about a variety of the clubs that we have, the exciting new clubs coming our way, and how you can get involved in writing the history of District 12. Welcome our club growth director, distinguished Toastmaster, and qualified speaker, Melissa Stacekel. Melissa?
Thank you very much, Tom. Hello, fellow Toastmasters. I've looked across the screen and I can see every single person who is here with us tonight, and you are all indeed Toastmasters. So I can confidently say you will understand what we are talking about. Take good notes. This is an opportunity for you to hear what the district has going on in relation to building new clubs and supporting existing clubs, how you can get involved. My team is working extremely hard, and we would not be able to accomplish what we're accomplishing without the strong team that we have. I have only a few people here with us tonight representing what we're working on, but I hope that you get inspired, take note, and share the good news on how you and your fellow Toastmasters can help District 12 continue to build our legacy and get our name out into the community. Our first speaker tonight, with over 25 years work experience in human resources and retired from the city of Moreno Valley in 2009, our first speaker knows the importance of corporate clubs. Please welcome past district governor, past region advisor, and current corporate relations co-chair, distinguished Toastmaster, Roz Carter.
Hi, everyone. Oh, let me just say this. I am co-chair of the corporate program unit of Club Growth. And that person is Tammy Lapp. She has an awesome list of ideas, and her and I have chatted lots about corporate clubs, existing as well as new ones coming on board. This book by Pat Johnson talks about building vibrant, I don't know if you could see it because I have something blurred, building vibrant and sustainable corporate programs in Toastmasters. Begin as you intend to continue. Those are the words of Pat Johnson when she was the premier person to speak on corporate programs. First of all, she said, don't say clubs, say programs. Because the envisioned future from Toastmasters International says this: to be the first choice provider of dynamic, high-value, experiential communication and leadership skills development. Those are the key words that corporate programs look for. When we reach out to, usually the first contact is the HR manager. They're thinking, what's in it for us? What's in it for our employees? And they consider using the staff development training budget to pay some or all of the expenses required to start a Toastmasters program on site. And with that being on site, their meetings are usually held during the work hours rather than the employees' lunch hour. But whatever works for them, whatever grabs the most attendance, is the ideal setup, because they're designing the program to look for staff development and incentives for their performance. Unlike community clubs where everyone can join and it doesn't matter what company or background you have, the corporate program is specific in nature. Some of them may grow to 30, 40, and 50 members like Esri, and some of them can decline below 8 members depending on what's going on in the company. So we look at the HR manager as the corporate champion, who the person from the district can reach out to see what's going on and how can we help. And the agenda and the program is designed like a curriculum. Here's what we're going to teach you through Toastmasters, and here's what you can expect to gain. Those soft skills, those transferable skills, the features, benefits, and value chart that we're all familiar with. But the benefits of Toastmasters remains the same regardless of what type of club you're in. What are their expectations and how do you build the program? That takes that conversation with a district liaison and that corporate champion, HR manager, to say, what's going on in your company? We know that Toastmasters can fit into your staff development program. As a matter of fact, some of you may have heard of Rick Furbush. He has YouTube videos on how to do exemplary demo meetings and kickoff meetings. And he has started over 100 clubs. He has chartered over 100. The training is also a little different because I have run into members of a corporate program where they say, you know, I work in Riverside, but I live in Irvine. I am not going to come back to Riverside on a Saturday for TLI. But back to that statement, begin as you intend to continue. We want those clubs to know and those members to know that twice a year it is required for those who agree by election to take on a leadership role as a club officer. However, sometimes the dates and times do not agree with everyone, including those of us in community clubs. So why hold it against them? We should try to meet them halfway and say, if you can attend, or at least half of your officers can attend TLI, we will make sure the rest of your officers are trained. Sometimes it's at a makeup training session. Sometimes it's by a division or area director. But we know the circumstance, and the bottom line of officer training is that the club will be more successful if their leaders know exactly what to do. Attending TLI is a network of maybe 300 people just like them who can share those ideas and experiences. I think that the bottom line for employees joining a Toastmasters club is to feel comfortable in their environment, to learn from each other, to bounce things off of each other. When I was working at City Hall in Moreno Valley in a corporate club, I was going to school at the same time. I bounced off my members as evaluators for my presentations in class. And based on that, I was able to be more comfortable and excelled in my degree program. There is a paradigm shift and the corporate speak. So members are participants, dues is tuition, agenda is curriculum, but it all speaks to the same thing. We are learning the value of Toastmasters and what it teaches us through its educational program, now called Pathways. Would you be intimidated to speak in front of your fellow employees at a meeting that is designed just for you? So change the agenda around a little bit from the standard one. Incorporate things like educational moment. There was a club at New York Life, they called it the New York Minute, because they wanted a piece of the company incorporated in their meetings. And everyone took value from that and took a pat on the back because Toastmasters introduced them to the various training and development programs. I would like to conclude there by saying, remember, begin as you intend to continue, and let's treat our corporate programs with the special design attributes that they deserve. Back to you, Melissa.
Thank you very much, Roz. Round of applause, please, for Roz on corporate clubs. Excellent, thank you very much. And afterwards, from all of our three presenters, we will have time for Q&A. Our next speaker is going to talk about why building new clubs. Please join me in welcoming past district director, current club extension chair, distinguished Toastmaster, Esther Papla.
Let us share with others the benefits we have gained for ourselves. Those are the words of our founder, Ralph C. Smedley. Thank you, Melissa, Madam Club Growth Director. Why start new clubs? Simon Sinek always says start with why. Have you ever sat back and thought about where would you be had someone not started your home club? Today, as we talk about how can you be part of developing the legacy of District 12, that's the question that comes to mind. That individual who started the club saw a need and wanted to share what was working for them by being part of Toastmasters. That's problem solving, that's sharing, and sharing is caring. This takes me back to when I was an area director. Then I was an area governor, that's what they called it, in 2011 under the leadership of Sandy Amalino. Together with my another fellow Toastmasters, we co-sponsored a Toastmasters club. How did that club come about? We belonged to a Tuesday evening club. His schedule no longer matched with evening activities because his children had after-school activities. We teamed up and started a club. We chose a day that was perfect, that works for most professionals, Friday morning. It's flexible, it's a slow day, easing ourselves into the weekend. 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., you are in and out before the start of the workday. That club just celebrated 10 years this year, Twin Cities business leaders, Toastmasters. Fast forward 2 years later, when I was a Division C director, I would drive from Temecula and all the way to Riverside, where all the district events were usually held because it was more of a centralized location. Between Menifee, Paris, and Sun City, there was nothing. Again, we brainstormed with my area directors and we formed 2 new clubs in Menifee. One met at lunch and one at lunchtime. As I look back at how many lives were changed, the people that I see in my community, some have come and gone, of course, but they're the who's who of this neighborhood. As I grew in leadership as a club growth director, and with the guidance of Lois Seeking, I learned how to talk to corporations in terms of starting new clubs. That year, we started 10 clubs. That's about 200 plus lives that were changed that year. That's a lot of Toastmasters. Fast forward again, my year as district director, 2015-2016, with David Carpenter as the club growth director, Sandy Amalino as the new club extension chair, 12 clubs were started that year. Another 200 plus lives, confidence gained, people able to express themselves. Just when I thought I was taking a break and retiring from district roles, Jose Preciado calls. I need a mentor. He was the club growth director then. We teamed up with him together with Suzanne Leonard. That year, 8 clubs were started. Even before those 8 clubs were started, Jeremiah Lyle was transitioning as well from his role into being a, program quality director. We all 3 of us went to this new club for the first time. Actually, it was a corporation, negotiated, talked about the features and benefits, as Roz mentioned, and we were able to get this club to pay that Toastmasters dues for the whole year. Can you imagine what magic we can do with people just paying that tuition that Ross talked about when you talk to a corporation, and that done for the whole year? All they do, they focus on their schooling and their curriculum. There are all kinds of clubs in District 12 that are in motion currently. Of course, we start with regular clubs where we learn the regular Toastmasters program, but we're also currently working on specialty clubs. Some of the brainstorming that's going on is regarding Mastermind, Health and Fitness Club, entrepreneurs, and I believe we also have storytellers in the works. Connie Jameson, do you have a minute to share with us what are you working on that Storytellers Club?
Yes, thank you, Esther. Hello, everyone. During my many years in Toastmasters, I've belonged to several clubs. 2 clubs that I enjoyed very much and miss very much are Word Wizards, which focused on books and writing, and Storytellers Corner, which focused on storytelling. What I would like to see happen would be a club that would be a hybrid of those 2 because they are so closely related. This club would focus on books, writing, publishing, giving book reports, wordsmith tips, and then also on the storytelling and the interpretive reading. I just think it would be great fun. We would learn so much and have enjoyable meetings. So I'm making a list. Some of you might already be on my list. But please contact me if you are interested in or have ideas for this type of a club, and spread the word. Thank you, Esther.
Thank you, Connie. Well, I have learned that leaders are readers, right? With the tons of books, and combine that with our Toastmaster skills, Toastmasters is suitable for everyone, from students to CEO to stay-at-home moms. You can sponsor or mentor. If you are working on your Distinguished Toastmaster designation, it's a win-win to help people learn more about Toastmasters while you at the same time earn your award. Where else can you get training for $7.50 a month with transferable skills? Nowhere. To start a new club, you only need $125 for the application to organize. Will you join us and be part of developing the legacy of District 12 and share the benefits of Toastmasters? The benefits that you have gained. All we ask is a lead and we do the rest. This is Toastmasters, where leaders are made. Following right along is our club growth director. Discover the opportunities of sponsoring, mentoring, or coaching a club to excellence. Please join me in welcoming our club growth director, Melissa Stagestow.
Thank you very much, Esther. Fellow Toastmasters, the only thing stopping you from where you are now to where you want to be is your comfort zone, Deval Gravier. Whether we've been in Toastmasters for a month, a few months, a few years, Toastmasters, as we know, is a place where we get well, District 12 has 3 ways where you can get out of your comfort zone and take your personal and professional skills to the next level. It doesn't matter how long you've been in Toastmasters. If you have not been in this role before, or maybe it's been some time, now is the time to jump on it, because not only will you be investing back into your sponsoring a new club. A new club doesn't just appear. Esther alluded to some of the ways it is started, and a sponsor or two is one of them. This is the person that helps the club form by taking the lead and the initiative to outreach to the people that are interested and draw that interest in to create the membership needed to charter this club. They're also involved in setting up the regular meetings and ensuring all the paperwork is processed and ensuring that the charter fee is put through and putting together the charter celebration ceremony. Being a sponsor is an opportunity to bring Toastmasters, something that if you're in Toastmasters, you're most likely already seen the benefits. You feel the passion brewing, if not, it's already in your blood. And it's an opportunity to take something new, a new club, and create it in your community or in any community around us. And as Esther said, she had that opportunity of more than 200 people drawing in Toastmasters, changing their lives, allowing them the opportunity to know what Toastmasters is, because there's still so many people out there that don't know the program, how inexpensive it is, and how it can change their life, whether for their career, for personal life, for their communication with family, or otherwise. If you're interested in being a sponsor, please make sure that you let me know, and I will direct you to the right person on my team, which is Anna Napoli. The second opportunity is to be a mentor to a new club. So after a new club is formed, it needs guidance. It's a baby club. It needs the support in knowing what it takes to be a strong, thriving club. And as a mentor, it's the same way that you mentor a person. You're sharing your expertise of your Toastmasters knowledge and helping this brand new club understand the best practices that they need and the tools that they need to hone in on to be a strong, thriving club on their own, on the way, ideally, towards being distinguished. You're taking the baton from the sponsor and you're driving this new club into a position where they're going to create their own legacy in their community, within their corporation, wherever they are landing. There are some clubs out there that are going on for more than 30 years, more than 40 years, more than 50 years. And it's all because they had a mentor to help them get on the right track and set themselves on the right path. Be a coach. This is the third opportunity. And to be a coach is for an existing club, and a club that has less than 13 members and just needs a little bit of guidance to get them on the right track. As a coach, you're supporting them in retaining membership and gaining membership. You're working side by side with the club officers in their agreement to develop the areas and strengthen the areas that they could use support in, to strengthen them towards being a distinguished club. And whether you are a sponsor for a new club, a mentor for a new club, or a coach for an existing club, all three provide opportunities for developing your skills and getting yourself out of your comfort zone. Team building, organization, higher leadership, increased proficiency as a facilitator or negotiator, marketing. You get to share your expertise and your passion. And of course, the cherry on top is that you get to share, in sharing this with the clubs, you get to get credit towards becoming a distinguished Toastmaster. I will leave the details in the chat if you're interested in being a sponsor, a mentor, or a coach. We have our sponsor mentor chair, Anna Napoli. And with us tonight, you don't have to wave Tommy, but you can see her on the screen. Everyone is Tommy Daniel, and she's our coach chair. The next portion we're going to talk about is investing into yourself. Getting out of your comfort zone, taking on leadership roles is part of that development process. It's part of honing your skills through practice. But you can't do that if you're not in Toastmasters. And it's important that you and the members of your clubs take the time to invest in yourself. And that's why the club growth team has provided incentives to help support members and encourage them to continue to reinvest into their memberships and personal growth in Toastmasters. The first incentive, this actually came from past international director Greg Scott. He came up with this and I ran with it. I love the idea. You might have seen it in the district news. It's I too can do. A really simple slogan to focus on. I too can do. I too can go out and talk to 2 people a week about Toastmasters and just invite them to come check out the program, give my elevator speech as to why it's a great program to develop your skills, and invite them to come check out the club, my club, whatever club I'd like to offer them to come see. And if every member took time in their week to invite 2 members to come to their clubs, the goal is to get 2 new members from each member into their club and grow their membership. The top 5 clubs who bring in the most members August 22nd through September 30th, following the guidelines of having at least 1 open house and sharing their open house flyer on the district Facebook page, you can also email it to the club growth director and myself, they will receive a 3-day Facebook marketing campaign just for their club. Great exposure opportunity. Second incentive, double dues, development dedication. This is an opportunity for clubs who renew at least 8 members through 2 renewal cycles. That's the October 2021 cycle and the September 2022 cycle. Each club that renews 8 members through these 2 cycles will get $50 Toastmasters store credit. Each club that renews 20 members through the 2 cycles will receive $100 store credit. And we'll be posting more on the Facebook page, but there are amazing things you can get for your club on the Toastmasters website, including web cameras. Take the time to invest in yourself. Share this message with your members, get it out across the district. I hope you found some interest in what we spoke about. And I will conclude and ask our timer to please give us 5 minutes. And if anyone has any questions about what Roz spoke about, or Esther spoke about, or myself, now is your time to open up and ask away. Go ahead, Greg.
Now, I don't have a question, Melissa, but I have something I would just wanted to share with the group on your subject. You talk about sponsor, mentor, or coaching clubs. And way back when, I've been the mentor for Lemon Street, Toastmasters, Happy Talk, Speakeasy, the university clubs, and I turned 29. I was the mentor for that. That is Norco State Prison and Phonic Ferry, and I can go on with clubs up here. And what was the success of starting these clubs, as well as coaching well over 25 clubs back to distinguished status to get, what was the well, the very first 3 clubs I started was Lemon Street, Happy Talk, and Speakeasy. You know who was there for me? Club 1348, every time. You know who was there for me for the Norco State Prison Club? Club 1348. I had more members putting on demo meetings, putting together the programs, working with the individuals. So I had a club that was a power club that supported me. This became, in the first days of District 12, something that we were really focusing on, is trying to open those clubs. Now, some of the things was, for example, Alan Powell earned his part for Norco State Prison, getting his DTM. And a number of other people I've worked with that I, instead of being the sponsor, the mentor, worked with them, and they worked fully through there as a mentor, sponsor, or coach. And they've got their DTMs and got credit for those things. Have you ever thought about your club? Have you ever thought about when it's time for you to step up and start the sponsor or mentor club or coach back to health, a club? Have you thought about the greatest resource that you know of is your home club, your Toastmaster family? I share that with you because it worked for me.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Greg. It's pretty powerful when you have family like that, Toastmaster family, backing you up. Does anyone else have any questions about what we spoke about, or any comments they'd like to share?
And Melissa?
Yeah, Marilyn.
And I just put it in the chat because hopefully I can learn more about tech, because I tried to put in 2 terms and I couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So let me provide some clarity for that. You can't simply go online and submit the first dues cycle and then the second dues cycle. There's a special process. And the process is that your vice president of membership needs to send an email to renewals@toastmasters.org. And if the treasurer is going to be sending the email, they'll want to CC the vice president of membership. And in this email, you'll make the request that you'd like to have the following members pay their dues through the 2 cycles, and you list the dates of the payment cycles for the October 1st, 2021, and then the September 2022. And you list your members' names, first name, last name, membership number, and you'll include your club name and your club number. And you send that off to the renewals@toastmasters.org. After that, you're going to get an email, and the email is going to provide you from Toastmasters International the instructions. The instructions are extremely easy. I saw an example email, and it literally said, you simply go online to pay the first cycle, refresh the page, and then the next cycle opens up for you to pay. Now, it may be different, but this was just done a month ago. And so I think they're doing this especially for people who make this email request. It's something they'll specially do on their end to open it up for these back-to-back cycle payments. It's extremely easy. It's done through Club Central. You just have to start by sending that email. Great question. Anyone else?
Just real quick, I understand that the Toastmasters International, maybe next year, we'd be putting into place where it doesn't take a club officer to have you put your dues in with a credit card. You'll be able to do it yourself. So that's something that a lot of people have been asking, and it's like we're headed that way.
Yes, I have heard that too, and I cannot wait for us to be able to do that. That's going to be great. Frankie.
Just note that the instructions on how to do that is in the district news underneath the I too can too. So,
Perfect.
yeah, so just look on your district news, it's there.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification, Frankie. We are out of time. I'm going to post my information into the chat. So if you have further questions, you can reach out. And if you are interested in stepping out of your comfort zone and showing your support towards either a new club or an existing club with your passion and your expertise as a sponsor, a coach, or a mentor, please reach out. We need people like you. Back to you, Tom.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. And I have a little gift for you as a reward for your presentation. Talking to one of our QSs, GAYLE Vanderslice. She is a professor at Cal Baptist, and she sounds like they might be able to start a club there. Don't be thinking about it right now, but maybe in the spring, we might be able to convince her with much of our help to get something going on there. And if we did that, that would be quite a plum. I think for at least 20 years, we tried to get a club at Cal Baptist when we were officer training there. We had all those tremendously successful officer training at Cal Baptist, and we were never, as much as we tried, able to start a club there. So that would be a great plum. And with a professor there, and I know we lost that club at Cal State San Bernardino. That was such a loss. But if we got students and professors working together, it might have a longer consistency. So with that. Okay, and I want everybody else to think about one of my special interests in that, as my wife talked about the book club, is special interest clubs. So if you can go back to your clubs and see whether anybody has ideas about a specialty interest. We have debate and all kinds of wonderful things, but I'm sure are things that we haven't thought of that would be special interest, like, a senior center where a large senior center might have at least 20 ex-Toastmasters who would love to join a club just for the social aspect of it. So think about specialty clubs as a addendum to what you've been adding with the corporate and community clubs. Our next speaker is going to do something. I know he's knocked my socks off on a number of times on what he's able to do in terms of enhancing a presentation. And so Kevin MONIZ, I'm going to get it wrong yet. Anyway, he is doing the title, The Art of Presentation, Master the Skill of Skillfully and Creatively Incorporating Technology into Your Speeches. He is a recognized speaker have had audiences from 20 to 2,000, certified success coach, a business owner, financial professional who teaches and trains families techniques to get out of debt, plan for retirement, and live a life of financial independence. He's been a member of Toastmasters for 14 years, currently a member of clubs and founders, District 1, District 5, District 100, and I will add soon, hopefully, to be a member of District 12. And I serve in club and district leadership positions. So he will display something that I think you all might be stimulated and learning about, even if we never get to the point where we're sophisticated at doing. Kevin, you're on.
One slide, two slide, red slide, blue slide. This slide has a little star. This slide has a little car. Say, what a lot of slides there are. Which then brings up the question, how many slides should there be? Well, to answer that question, we have to look back in history. Way back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, when gas was only $1 a gallon, or when our caveman ancestors used to take those little canisters to what was known as a drugstore. Back then, canisters, film canisters, came in increments of 12. 12 slides, 24 slides, 36 slides. Or if you were a little bit frugal, like some of us, you would share your canister among college students. One student would come up with 6 slides, another student would share it and come up with his 6 slides. Therefore, it made sense that you would limit the number of slides you had, because it used to take a whole week to get your slides when you dropped it off at the drugstore. 6 slides back then was the perfect number. And if you talk to any so-called expert when it comes to slides, he'll always tell you 6 bullet points, the perfect number of bullet points. We all know that bullets serve a purpose. Bullets can stop your audience dead in their track, because bullets are meant to kill. In fact, if you've heard that phrase, death by PowerPoint, you can thank those bullets for it. How about each bullet? Everyone will tell you 6 words per bullet, 6 words per line. But let's put this all together. Let's bring it all together and look at it. 6 words, 6 bullets, 6 slides. Do you see anything common in that? 6, 6, 6. When you look at it in its entirety and think of the number 666, it brings a whole new meaning to presentation hell. That's what we are always taught. So then, how many slides should there be? That's all a matter of control. Who is in control of your presentation? Are you, as a speaker, in control? Or is your PowerPoint or whatever presentation software you're using in control? How can you tell? If the words can roll right off your tongue, such as apple, berry, cherry, or 1 banana, 2 banana, 3 banana, 4, I would say that you as a speaker are in control. But when we hear typical PowerPoint presentation speeches, what do we hear? If you've ever been to the corporate level and heard a corporate executive, you will hear something such as, yeah, so my name is Kevin, and today I will be giving you some pointers on presentations, because let's start off with point 1. Point 1, I mean point A. A is for apple. Point 2, B. B is for berry, and C for cherry. C is for cherry. Let's go on with 1. We have point 1, 1 banana. 1 banana. 2 bananas. Bananas. I think I should be bananas. 2 bananas. Yeah, I'll get that fixed next time. 3 bananas. 4 4, I believe it should be 4 bananas, but I'll have to get back to you on that. And that's what a typical corporate presentation is like. But I would tell you, there's no limit to the number of slides you can have. For instance, if I want to present a whole book to you, and if I had a reason to do this, I could easily put up 10, 20, 30 slides. It doesn't matter how many slides I put up. If it enhances a presentation, I will use as many slides as necessary. In fact, if I were to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, today our speaker will give you about 100 slides. Yeah, I would never even tell you how many slides I'm going to present, because if you hear that large number, you will panic, you will run, you will say, let's just go on to the next speaker. And that's understandable, because so many presenters read from their slides. And what happens when a presenter does nothing but reads from a slide, you have elevated the role of the presentation software to that of the presenter, and you have demoted the role of the speaker to that of nothing more than an auditory aid. Don't be an auditory aid. Be a presenter. Present your slides as you need. And remember, those are all visual aids. You as a speaker are the presenter. And it all starts with your message. Once you know your message, once you can powerfully present your message with that passion, that's when you can reach out to your audience and potentially make a profit. So then the question is, what is my message? How do I know what my message is? I mean, I do have a puppy dog. Maybe that should be my message. I'm going to deliver a 5 to 7 minute speech on my puppy dog or my trip to Hawaii. Everyone wants to know about my trip to Hawaii. I'm going to give a speech on my trip to Hawaii. Now, there's nothing wrong with giving a puppy dog speech or a Hawaii trip speech, but I don't believe that's the message of most speakers. They're good because they help you develop your speaking style. They help to alleviate that fear so that when you are ready to develop your message and present your message, you can. But there comes a certain time when you've got to present your message. The question is, how do you determine what your message is? The answer starts off in ancient Sanskrit. In the ancient literature, there is a commonality, 4 phrases that I have found in the ancient Sanskrit manuscript, which are dharma, kama, artha, and moksha, which roughly translate to desire or love, freedom, money, and skill. Those of you who have studied personal development may have heard of these concepts before, because in Japan, they have taken this information from the ancient Sanskrit and developed a concept called ikigai. Ikigai, your reason for being, your life purpose. I have come up with my own concept where I take your speaking ability along with your ikigai, take the confluence of them, and I've come up with this word called speakigai. Your message is your speakigai. And this would really be about a 20-minute message on how to focus and how to develop your speakigai. That will be a future lesson for a future time. For now, just understand, once you know your message, speaking in front of an audience is easy. Speaking passionately with purpose is easy, but you have to know your message. All this stuff behind me that you see, this is nothing but icing on the cake. If I don't have a good message and I keep throwing up all these pictures and images, then it's nothing but having lipstick on a pig. If I just stutter and hem and haw, and if I don't know my message, if I struggle, if I just read word for word, that's all the message. This is all the presentation software will provide. Nothing but lipstick on a pig. Therefore, always know your message. Some of you may wonder, how do you come up with those images, these slides? I keep creativity, or I use creativity. Many people don't understand what creativity is. Here at Toastmasters, I would say the majority of Toastmasters would identify themselves as being creative beings. But out in the corporate world, very few people would consider themselves to be creative, which is really funny. Because when you ask CEOs, what is one characteristic you admire most or do you want to see in your employees, they will tell you it's creativity. But where do most people say they are least creative? At the workplace. Therefore, you've got to go back to your inner child when you felt you were most creative. So what are some of these aspects of creativity? What makes my slides creative? I would start off with minimalism. You will notice that my slides are very simple. No words all over the place, nothing for me to read. In fact, you'd see at most 1, 2, maybe 3 words. I think on my entire slide, besides a quotation every now and then, you're going to see very few words. Simplicity. I keep everything simple. all my slides are very simple. The reason is they are an enhancement to the message. They are not the message. They are the visual aid to the presenter. I can be as complicated as I want. I keep everything here simple. You'll also notice the number of pictures I show. Typically 1 picture per slide. Well, if 1 picture is good, wouldn't 2 pictures be better? Or 4, 9, 16? How many pictures can we cram on a slide? Well, let's take a quick look. Here's a slide with 9 pictures. Does that look better? How about let's reduce it down to 4 pictures? I think it looks a little bit better than 9 pictures. The fewer pictures, to me, it looks better, but let's go even further. 1 picture. I'm telling you that 1 picture looks a lot nicer than 4, 9, 16, or however many you can cram. Just because you can put a lot of pictures on a slide doesn't mean you should. And I know some of you are thinking, no, I don't buy this 1 picture thing. This slide only looks good because that car looks good. That car is beautiful, and that's why that slide looks good. But I would beg to differ because this car is hideous, and this slide still looks better than showing a slide of 16 cars. Therefore, stick with 1 picture. You may also question, should it be a little picture? Because with a tiny little picture like this, I can put a lot of words here. Yeah, resist that temptation to put words on, and you be the judge. You make the call. Little picture or 1 big picture? I would say 1 big picture is far superior to any number of little pictures. Let's also talk about those words. I've told you that I keep my words to a minimum. Most slides, 1 to 3 words. Here, yeah, there's 1,000 or so words, but I do this for an example because you know this phrase, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Therefore, stick with 1 picture and you communicate as a speaker all the words that you need to communicate. Now, I'm not saying never use words. There are specific examples. A future time, I'll give you all the different examples of when you need words on your slide, when you need to display words, print words. There are times. That's for a future talk. Some of you may have noticed things are moving in and out all the time. Why is that? Is that motion important? Well, it all depends. When we look at the builder generation or the boomer generation, maybe even the Gen X generation, sure, we grew up in schools where we sat still. We just listened. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Whatever you say, I will write it down. But when you start looking at the millennial generation, and especially Generation Z, what do? They look at this thing, their phone, and then periodically, it'll give them a little buzz. Bzz, 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 because they are so accustomed to things changing on them. They want to see motion. They need to see movement. If you want to reach your audience with your right message at the right time, you've got to cater to what your audience needs. And the younger generation, and right now, the millennial generation is the largest generation in the entire population. The millennial generation needs to have motion. When they see black words on a white slide and they see a presenter reading, you will notice, now even though people here today are turning off their cameras, you will notice that they will turn off their cameras and they are zoning out. Whereas I can present my message to a group of junior high kids and they will be staring straight at it because there are elements in here that are just captivating them, intriguing them, making them want to focus and listen. And what I'm going to show you today, it may seem like I'm doing some sort of magic. just like with any magician, if you've ever been to Vegas or you've seen David Copperfield, Penn and Teller, Uri Geller, any magician, you may say, I wonder, how do they do that? How did he make that elephant disappear? And even if someone were to show you and tell you and explain to you all the hidden secrets of magic, the question is, would you, as a speaker, incorporate any of it into your message? Remember, you don't want to do anything just because you know you can do it. You want to do it so that it enhances whatever your message is. Much like vanishing a coin. Maybe you haven't done it before, but you know, with a little bit of practice, you can make any coin vanish out of your hand. And you know it's not truly vanishing. It just requires some skill and practice. And everything that you see back here is the same way. A little bit of practice, a little bit of skill, and I'll show you exactly how all of this is done in a moment. But before I do that, I have to remind you about Peter Parker's uncle, who once gave him a message. His Uncle Ben told him, with great power comes great responsibility. Always remember that. You do not want to be that irresponsible speaker who just stares at his slides, reading word for word, because you've seen those speakers. You don't like those speakers. They put you to sleep. They just annoy you, especially when a speaker is reading his or her slides. At a certain moment, that speaker will come to the realization, this sounds like it's being read. Therefore, I better make it sound a little more natural. With great power comes great responsibility, right? Don't you hear speakers who read their message and still interject an or here and there? That's why you don't want to read your message. Speak your message from your heart. Learn what your message is. I'm going to show you 2 ways to do what I'm doing here. As with anything in life, there's always an easy way and a hard way. Let's start with the easy way. What is the easy way to do what I'm doing? Let's look at Zoom. You've got to look at your Zoom client. When you launch Zoom, you'll notice that there's a little number down in the bottom. The number I see on mine is version 5.7.4. What version do you need? You need at least, oh, there it is, nice and big, 5.7.4. The version you need, and if you don't see it, oh, it's 5. If you have 5.0.0, that's an old version, a version you don't want. That, if you do have a really old version, you have to go up to resources, click on download Zoom client, and download the latest client. It doesn't need to be the latest, but you do need to have at least version 5.4.3 to do what I'm about to show you. And remember, this is the easy way. The 5.4.3 is the minimum. If you take the latest version, it will work. Once you start up your Zoom meeting, down in the very bottom, you see this little share screen button. By clicking on that share screen button, it'll bring you to the sharing screen where you can choose what you want to share. Way up on the top, there's a tab that says Advanced. If you click on Advanced, you'll see some options. And one option is PowerPoint as virtual background. After selecting PowerPoint as virtual background, click on Share, select your PowerPoint file. And then voila, you will appear with your PowerPoint slide in the background. You can adjust yourself. When you first do it, you will be a tiny little figure, but you can blow yourself up in Zoom to make yourself bigger. And that's how you can do it the easy way. But this brings up so many questions. Is that what I do? No, because with Zoom, there's always limitations. whenever you take a shortcut, when you do something the easy way, there are limitations. What's a major limitation? You have to have sharing enabled. For what I'm doing right now, as you can see, it's coming through my camera. I don't have to share anything. If you choose to make me big, you can pin me. If the host wants to make me big, the host can spotlight me, but it's up to the individual. And right now, if the host were to disable sharing, you would still see everything. You would still see me. You would still hear me. So that's one drawback of using PowerPoint, using Zoom to choose a PowerPoint background. The other drawback is that Zoom changes all your slides to stationary objects. Therefore, you would only see images in the back. You would not see any motion, no animations, no transitions between slides. It would be very similar to how you typically see your timer at a club meeting, show a red, yellow, and green light. That would be the same thing. But PowerPoint does it for you so you can use a clicker. So it is easier, and it is something to help you get started. What's the hard way? The way I'm doing it right now, it's a hard way. But why would someone choose to go the hard way route? Because of the flexibility. I use a piece of software called Open Broadcaster Software, frequently abbreviated to OBS. What OBS does is it takes all my inputs, whatever inputs I have, PowerPoint, any YouTube videos or any videos at all, webcams, cameras, any type of video source, any screen I want to share. OBS takes all of those as inputs and outputs them to a virtual camera. So Zoom then picks up my virtual camera. Instead of using a physical camera, right now I'm using a virtual camera, which OBS creates. OBS sends all my images, everything that you are seeing. I'm talking into the camera, OBS picks that up. PowerPoint is being fed into OBS. You are seeing that all through the virtual camera. It takes a while to set up. It takes a while to practice, but it gives you an enormous, tremendous amount of flexibility. What does it take? Yes, you have to have a computer. And yeah, do you need a Cray supercomputer for $20,000? Do you need an i3, i5, i7, i9? There's so much when it comes to computing that I don't have time to tell you, but I will give you the answer. What type of computer, if you want to do what I do with ease, gaming computers. I have found the low-end gaming computers are sufficient. I also have a high-end business computer with an i9 processor and 32 gigs of RAM. That computer is lousy for doing this. But a low-end gaming computer with a gaming graphics card works flawlessly. Low-end gaming computer is what you want. A green screen. Yeah, many people get confused when they hear the term green screen. Oh, it's this expensive curtain material, thousands of dollars. No, it's just a green curtain. I have a green curtain hanging across the back of my garage wall here. $25, $30 for a green screen. And even if you don't want to get an official green screen, you just need to get it green enough. Go to Michael's or Joann's Fabrics, and you can find a greenish screen, and that'll be green enough. And that's a budget screen. In fact, when I first started doing what I'm doing today, you may wonder, well, you have the entire garage. Well, right now I have my garage. But when I first started, I was in my bedroom on a 6 foot by 3 foot space. Not that much space. And I put my webcam up on the bed, which brings to the question, oh, what kind of camera? Notice that I'm telling you these things in importance. What's the most important? Lights are more important than your camera. You can use a cheapy little inexpensive webcam or camera, but when you flood yourself with lights, that low-end camera will make you look a lot better when you have good lights on. Therefore, lights are more important than cameras. What kind of camera is good? I have a high-end webcam, but right now what I'm speaking to you through is a low-end digital SLR. SLRs have a lot higher resolution, but the webcam would work fine. When you see me sitting down, when we do Q&A, I'll be sitting down. I'll be using a high-end webcam. As long as you have good lighting, even a low to mid-end webcam will be sufficient. But the tiny little dot pinhole camera that you have in your laptop monitor typically will not have enough resolution to be that effective. I think that's it. So I will leave you with the words of David Byrne from the Talking Heads, who says, PowerPoint may not be of any use for you in a presentation, but it may liberate you in another way, an artistic way. Who knows? Back to you, Tom.
Well, okay. I think I have my audio on. Yes, you can hear me speak. That's good. Wow. There's so much for us to learn. I'm sure that there'll be some questions in chat and some comments in chat. So please do that so that Kevin can get some feedback on his presentation. And as you can see, I had okayed him doing a little bit of evaluation of Melissa to impress you with how quickly he can respond to things. If you ever get a chance to see him do an evaluation, that will be a special experience. He can put up immediate things that had just happened, and you can see that kind of feedback and how it works. Our final presentation is put on by my right-hand person, Sunny GAYLE, who somewhere along the line, I got a little inspiration to find out that we keep hearing about using of podcasts and going to be a part of Pathways. And every time I talk to somebody, oh yeah, I know about podcasts, but they didn't really know much about podcasts. They hadn't done them and they weren't very experienced. And so when I got someone who was willing to put together a presentation on something that probably a good number of our Toastmasters will be doing in the future. Maybe this is going to be your first introduction to podcasts, but well, let Sunny GAYLE take it away and get us introduced to what podcasts are and how to go about them.
Thank you so much, Tom. I am going to be doing about 15 minutes introduction of podcasting, and I'll talk about the Toastmaster project. And then I have a special guest with me tonight, Art Godinez. He hosts a podcast and he'll talk about the actual experience of doing a podcast. And so I'll introduce him later on. I'm going to share my screen here. So in this presentation, I'm going to cover an introduction to podcasts, as I mentioned, the project, the level 4 elective, create a podcast, and then just 4 easy steps to begin podcasting if that's something you're interested in doing. So what is a podcast? Well, first of all, it's just a digital audio or video talk or presentation or interview. It's an electronic file that you basically upload to the internet, but you create a series of episodes or installments. Most people, I've seen podcast series as small as just 2 episodes, but typically they're ongoing episodes like 10 in a season, for example, or some people do it every week, maybe 25, 30 weeks out of the year. They can get to be quite large. What you'll do is you find a podcast you like, and then you subscribe to it. All of the apps that you can subscribe through have a very clear, easy to find button. And so then those episodes are now received automatically into your phone or your iPad or your computer, however you're accessing the podcast. And podcasts are free. Now, some of them may include ads, but typically there's going to be no charge for them. Who creates podcasts? Everyone. Everyone. If you have a favorite actor, politician, minister, a thought leader that you follow, they most likely have a podcast. Now, my favorite podcasts are from NPR. I used to listen to the radio. Now I just pick up their episodes of my favorite shows or the morning news. I have several thought leaders that I follow. And then if you just do a search, you'll find that there are a lot of average, quote unquote, average people who have created a podcast and are sharing their opinions on whatever the topic is. So what kinds of top podcasts are there? Again, everything. Everyone is talking about everything in a podcast. Now, this is a screenshot from Apple's iTunes. This is how I listen to podcasts on my computer. On my phone or my iPad, I'll use the Apple Podcast app. And if you're not an Apple fan, if you have an Android device, here are the top providers. They're called directories, podcast directories. As you can see, Apple Podcast is #1. Almost half of people who listen are doing it through Apple. Spotify is #2 though. And so if you're an Android user, Spotify might be a good choice for you. So if you're looking for a podcast just to get started, this is from Darren LaCroix and Mark Brown, 2 of the world champions of public speaking, called Unforgettable Presentations. They have 100 episodes and all of them are just excellent speaking tips and how to present. Again, you can download any of the podcast directory apps on your phone and then just Google Darren or Google Unforgettable Presentations, and then you'll always have them with you. I like to listen to podcasts when I drive, for example. Now, the Pathways Level 4 project is an elective project, so it's not one of the required ones. You don't have to do this. And it comes with the project that you can download as well as the evaluation, as you would expect. They do provide a couple other tools. One is a cheat sheet called Podcasting Basics, and then they offer a podcast organizer worksheet. I'll be honest, these tools are a little bit simple. If you're serious about getting into podcasting, then I would do a Google search and you'll find a lot of really great free resources. But if you're just putting together your project just for the purposes of your club meeting, then these tools will work. There is a section in the project that says create a podcast competencies, and these are the skills that you're going to learn. One of the things I wanted to point out here, though, is this bottom one. Upload podcasts to the internet for distribution to listeners. I saw that and I thought, oh my word, they're making us upload the podcast to a hosting service. That's not only time consuming and requires technical expertise, but it also costs money. And I was shocked at that. And then when I read it again and read it a little bit closer, the requirements for the project, which are different from the competencies, the requirement is that you need to record 60 minutes of podcast content. You can do it divided any way you choose, but each episode should be at least 10 minutes. And then you need to present a 7 to 13 minute speech at your club where you're going to introduce the podcast in 2 to 3 minutes, and then you're going to play 5 to 7 minutes of the episode you recorded. So while the competency says you should upload it to the internet, the requirement is that you only have to play it for your club. You don't actually have to upload it. So that's the level 4 project. It is a lot of work, I think, for level 4 elective. I don't see too many people doing this because it does require some technical expertise to record and then edit and all of that kind of stuff. And if you really wanted to do a good job, that's a lot of work. And so unless you're really wanting to do a podcast for real, I might move on and choose an easier elective. However, if you do want to begin podcasting, number 1, here are the 4 steps. You're going to create the podcast. And then once you have the episodes, then you have to upload them to a podcast hosting service. And there is a monthly fee for this. I've seen it anywhere from about $10 a month up to $85 or more, depending on the size of your files and the quantity and the number of listeners. But if you, for example, if you Googled how to do a podcast, one of the things that comes up is podcasters.apple.com. So these are instructions for people who want to post in the Apple directory, and they give you a list of hosts that they work with, that they partner with Of course, there are many, many hosting providers out there. So you've uploaded to the hosting service, then you have to apply and submit your podcast to the podcast directory. Here again, I've listed Apple, but as I showed you previously, you have several options. There's Apple, Spotify, Castbox, Google, and so on. So you can pick which directory you want to be in. Obviously, the most reach is going to be through Apple Podcasts currently. And then the last step is you would just publish new episodes as they become available. So it looks very simple. It's actually technically challenging. There are a lot of special things that you have to do to the files, and you have to tag and do different things like that. So I think for the average person, unless you really are trying to get your message out there and you feel like the podcast is the way to do it, this is not as easy as it might appear here. Are there any questions?
My first thought might be that if it becomes something of interest to a district, they might find someone who is particularly excited about it to be the district resource that people from the whole district can go to help them get going on it. But you did say there is, no matter what, there'll be some kind of a cost to have your broadcast as a podcast.
Yes, there are monthly fees associated.
I'd love to share, if I may. This is Kimberly Smith Austin.
Please do.
I have two podcasts that I have been running now for almost 2 years. And initially, when I got onto the podcasting platform, I did pay for a service that cost me as little as $5 a month. However, after looking for ways to fine tune my podcast, I did find a resource that I'd love to share with everyone. It's called Anchor, like an anchor that on a boat.fm. Anchor.fm is a free, yes, I said free podcasting host. And they put your podcast on 7 different platforms without any action other than hitting publish. I absolutely love Anchor because it goes directly to Apple, directly to Spotify, Google Play, what's the other one? Stitcher, Overcast, a host of them. And I don't have to do anything else. When I was on Libsyn, I had to manually do the work to put them on the other platforms. Anchor.fm does it automatically, and they're searchable. The only thing is you don't really have control of your RSS feed, which is another high-level term, that if you wanted to post and put it elsewhere. For example, I was just putting mine on Amazon because they now host podcasts. I had to get the RSS feed from Anchor in order to do that. But that is a resource that's out there for those of you that are interested in podcasting. There is a free resource out there, and it's amazing, by the way. That's all.
Thank you so much, Kimberly.
My pleasure.
Any other comments before I introduce Art? Right. I don't see any hands. Well, I am so excited to have my friend and coworker here tonight. His name is Art Godinez, and he is one of the co-founders and co-hosts of the podcast A Kiss Like Yours, which is now in its 2nd year. The focus is on family, sex, movies, dating, travel, kids, and the kitchen sink. And they talk about the ups and downs of marriage to help their listeners and to help themselves. And there are things that they wish they knew before they got married that now they get to pass on. I've listened to a couple episodes, and it is very interesting and very entertaining. One of the things I love is that Art is very authentic in the podcast. And so what you're hearing there is also the guy that I know. So please help me welcome Art Godinez.
Thanks, Sunny. Happy to be here, guys. Excited to talk to everybody.
Do you have anything you want to share before I start asking you questions?
No, I just thank Kimberly for bringing that up. I was definitely going to mention Anchor. We are also hosted by Anchor. and I can second everything that she said. They've been amazing. All of it is free, so it's not financially cumbersome to get started. And obviously, with the complexity, you can scale it up as you want, but absolutely not as involved as some of maybe the other more top producing podcasts may be that you might think it's not as complicated as you might think.
Great. So Art, what made you decide to get into podcasting and how did you choose this theme?
So it's kind of a funny story. We had a talk about what to do for our fantasy football league, actually. And I wanted to just get something going for our fantasy football league and just spice it up a little. So I started doing this podcast. And again, I got on Anchor. I got on these headphones that you're seeing right here. So there was no additional cost there. I set up my account and I hit the record button. But in talking with my wife, she enjoyed listening and she actually wanted to participate. So we started doing it I started doing the podcast with her. And then she said, you know what? Maybe we should do something a little bit more meaningful with our time. I get that it's fantasy football, but let's start to actually use our time to help out folks that maybe need some help in the relationship area. We had previously hosted through our church a young adult and young married couples or seriously dating couples group. And so he said, you know what, we had a lot of fun with that. Let's just continue down that relationship sort of theme, family, marriage, sex, kids, travel, because we both come from broken families. And we said, you know what, we want to do and pour into our relationship as much as possible. And one of the things is that we always kind of hold on and keep in mind is that we always say that our family and our relationships, like when you ask somebody, what's the most thing that's important to you? And they say, oh, my family, right? The problem is that when we take a look at our time and our resources, where we're not putting that the most in our time and resources is with that family. So that's part of what our motivation is, to make sure that we're pouring into our family, and then we're also helping others. And it's great, like you said, Sunny. It's intentional that you hear that it's raw and it's just me, and we're talking and we're fighting on the like literally we're going through an argument, like you pissed me off and I really appreciate you with this. And so the reason for that is when your podcast needs to be real, it needs to be genuine, and people can tell when you are not being genuine very easily, especially when it's just audio and you just hear that voice, the inflection in your voice, and they don't really see you all that much. So that was a long-winded answer to just say, hey, you know what, we really just wanted to give back and pour into others.
Oh, that was excellent. I didn't realize you had started out with fantasy football, and then I love how it morphed into something more meaningful. Thank you so much for that. So what is your process then for creating the episodes? I mean, how long does it take to create an episode?
Well, we usually talk about an hour, and it's funny, we used to talk about a half hour, and then once you kind of get into it, the more you know how to bounce things off of each other, or there's topics that you want to get to, the longer you start to go, and it gets a little bit easier. But we record for about an hour. We do about an hour of post, which means that we're editing and we're actually uploading our episode to Anchor. And our editing is very, very basic. Again, we try not to cut out, the rawness of the episode. Typically what we're cutting out is sometimes the kids come in, right? And they're yelling and screaming and asking I have 2 daughters that are under 6 years old. So they want a snack, or the dog starts barking, right? And so we're recording in our living room. Or our dining room. So those are the type of things that we kind of cut out just to kind of keep, the distraction piece out. But other than that, we don't make any real edits to what is being said. So there's not much effort there, but it does take about an hour extra to get all that squared away and uploaded. So about 2 hours, I would say, per episode.
Do you decide what you're going to talk about beforehand?
Yes and no. So that's kind of a good question, because we do have general themes that we're going to talk about, but there's times where it happens all the time where we're driving down, the freeway, and we go, hey, I asked my wife a question, and then we'll start getting to this conversation and be like, no, stop, write it down, and we'll talk about it on the podcast. So it ends up being like, yes, we do know generally what we're talking about, but we're not scripted, and we just sort of hit talking points as we go along.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so what apps are you using to record and edit?
So Anchor is a great one. If you're just getting started, Anchor is probably the most user-friendly. Because we have invested in some more equipment, I would say, right? To the mics.
I'm sorry, before you go on, can you edit in Anchor?
I typically don't, but I think from my experience, we can just record straight. I think there may be some editing capabilities, but I don't use Anchor for editing. So what we would do is record off of my equipment, and then that gets uploaded into a program called Audacity. That program is free, and you can upload your podcast to Audacity, do your editing, your cut, your paste, and we can add, cool little things like our theme music and our outro, things like that. And then we can take that file, upload it into Anchor, and you have a podcast.
Okay. Wow, that sounds simple enough. And so what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about starting a podcast?
If you're thinking about starting a podcast, start it, because that's the biggest hurdle to get over, is just actually starting it. You can go to Anchor right now, like I said, download the app, put in your profile, and literally connect the headphones onto your phone and just start talking, and having, really what it is just a conversation. And that fantasy football podcast was really just me talking to myself. There's nobody else around. So, get into your special reading place or a quiet place and just start talking and pretending like somebody else is there with you, asking rhetorical questions and doing those kinds of things. And you have a podcast. So that's my biggest advice, is just to start out. It'll get as complicated as you want it to, but it can also be as simple as you want it to.
Oh, see, I think he's talking to you, Tom and Connie. I'm ready to hear your podcast.
Well, I have a couple of thoughts to throw out here, and as I said, they're just right out of the box. But here's a couple of thoughts. I have a debate club. Every month we do something really controversial. So we pick the most controversial topics we can come up with. Would it be possible to record and use a different one from each monthly meeting? If maybe you assemble 10 or 12 of them, and each week you have a different debate topic. And the way the debaters do it is they don't know what side of the issue they are. There's a topic and they're just going to do it. And I think it'd be of interest to people to hear about various topics. The second one, Sonny, you might want to think about this one, and would be able to have, for instance, our qualified speakers do their presentations and have a different one each week or month or whatever it is, schedule them to do those. And then maybe people would see them and get interested in Toastmasters, or if nothing else, our speakers would have an audience.
Yeah, a lot of possibilities there. Frankie Jones has asked a question in the chat. What recording equipment do you use?
Well, I use, we have a couple of different things. I have a mixer called Rodecaster, and that Rodecaster is designed a lot for multiple mics. So I can have up to 4 people on one podcast at a time, which we have episodes with 4 people. It gets a little hairy because, you want, there's 4 people talking and trying to get their point across and laughing and arguing and that whole thing. So that's pretty complex. So I have that sort of a mixer that brings all of the mics together. I also have microphones. We have cords to plug in from the microphone into the mixer. We also have pop filters. So pop filters is something that we use for sound quality. So the P's, you get that pop sound when you hear it in the speakers. It helps to reduce some of that. Outside of that, that's pretty much it. So maybe some headphones so we can hear. Outside of that, I think that's pretty much it. So the high level equipment, obviously we need a computer or some sort of application to be able to upload. So we need software in that regard. But again, it doesn't need to be that complex. If you're going to just start out, maybe 1, 2 mics at a time, and you're all set. There's plenty of really good videos on YouTube that help you piece together those equipment questions, because again, they go from high end to low end, and you can really scale however you really want to. And there's a lot of good information on YouTube about podcasting.
Great, thank you, Art. Any other questions for Art? Any questions in general? All right, well, Art, thank you so much again for being here and for sharing that great information. I think it just really made such a difference to have somebody who's actually podcasting share with us. So thank you very much. And please feel free to join us anytime. We meet on the first Wednesday of every month.
Thanks, guys. I'll leave you with the outro that we have every single week on our podcast, and that's going to do it for us this week. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Back to you, Mr. Jameson.
Okay, thank you, Sunny, for putting together that program. We all know, I'm sure, a whole lot more about doing podcasts, and we'll let those juices flow in our brains and think about creative ways to do that. And maybe a few that are thinking about doing that will get stimulated to do that and even report back to us that this was maybe the inspiration that got them going. Before we leave this, I think we need to call upon our district director, Suzanne Leonard. If you have something to share with us, we always make sure that the district representation has things to share, and when they get a chance to report that at this individual meeting. Suzanne?
I'm thrilled to report what's going on with us in District 12. In our D12 newsletter, renamed after Tuesday with the Trio, we thought we'd change things up a bit. We have an amazing training team that is going to be training the Tuesdays. The first Tuesdays we have coming up, new member orientation, the first, and then pathways, because we all can use some tutelage on how to best present our paths when we're giving our oral presentations. The first Thursday of every month, Tom, you know what's happening the first Thursday. Why don't you give us a tidbit about it, unless you already have? I've had to bounce in and out a few times. What's happening tomorrow, Tom?
Oh, well, let's see if I'm here. Well, all I know is I'm supposed to be there and ready to answer questions. But anyway, there's going to be meetings on improving our skills at being club mentors. Did I get that correct, Suzanne?
Well, I think that you're on the right track. We have, again, and I was happy to be able to hear part of our club growth director, Melissa Stayskold's report. We are moving and shaking, of course, toward our Smedley goal. Area reports are coming in. I'm really happy about it because it gives us a heads up on how we can assist our area directors. And just so much more. I have a peer call tomorrow with my fellow district directors from across Region 2. We are already looking forward to having guest speakers, and I'm very excited about our upcoming Distinguished Council meeting. Those of you who are presidents, VPEs, part of our DEC team will be there. We have a special guest speaker that will engage us in an interesting conversation. I read in the chat. I also like podcasts that are interesting conversations. So make sure you tune in to the wonderfully creative newsletter that our new public relations manager, Frankie Jones, assisted with the marvelous and always creative Sharon Kenty, are putting forth. If you have a club member that doesn't get that, we're still figuring out the best way to make sure it's available. Please make sure that you forward it or that your VPPR forwards it to every club member. You don't want to miss out on what's happening in your District 12. Thank you, Tom, for the opportunity to share.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. And I want to thank Sunita for volunteering to be the timer. And of course, any of you who see the flyers that come out, Sharon Kenty helps put those together and does the major work of organizing it and making it look good. And of course, without Sunny at my side, this whole thing would all fall apart like a house of cards. So we don't accomplish everything on our own. We do it with a lot of help. Thank you, Kevin, for being here, and Melissa for your presentation, and Sunny. But were there any more questions for any of our presenters who might still be here in the audience? I think maybe they're all still here. Anybody from the audience have any questions about any of the issues that were brought up today? I don't see any hands. But of course, the last and most important, I had a question before we go any further, and that is anybody, to anyone's knowledge, meeting in person or having blended meetings? Have any of those occurred? Yes, I see a hand there. Esther, tell us a little bit about it.
We have a hybrid meeting. One of the clubs that I mentioned, Twin Cities Business Leaders, on Friday mornings, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. We have a hybrid meeting. Some members do go to John Grant's office. It's called an Optimal U. And then some of us are still on Zoom. He has a very nice setup as well. I think he also does podcasts. So that back room has all the equipment there. So as part of his business, he was able to provide that whole setup for the club as well. And I believe there are about 3 clubs that are utilizing that space in that hybrid mode.
When we get a few more of them doing that, we may want to have at Speakers Bureau have a report on what problems they've run into. I know we did something a long time ago about it, but now, since we've actually in real life, some of our clubs are actually doing it. I know Connie's club is planning on a blended
We're
hybrid meeting
practicing tomorrow evening.
tomorrow.
Wow.
So after we get a few, we may want to get some, actually devote a portion of this particular meeting of covering the issues that worked, what things worked, what things did not work. I see Frankie has her hand up, and Greg, and then I think Suzanne did too. Oh, and Melissa, go ahead. Let's start with Frankie.
Health Happy is planning a blended meeting. One of our newer members, Susanna Romig, her company has offered us a room to use free of charge in their new building in Ontario. So we're kind of excited about that. It wasn't quite finished. We were planning on it for our meeting yesterday, or the 30th, I guess it was, but we're excited to see how that works. And like you said, we're going to learn from experience. So.
Well, I used to belong to Health Happy, and it's particularly interesting to think of a club called Health Happy who's going to start meeting in person, but that's another issue altogether. Okay, Greg.
Yes, my club up here in District 57, of course, we're not as populated as you. We've been meeting in person for a month now on the 2nd story building overlooking Clear Lake, the beautiful lake. And there's an office building one of our members has that puts on seminars, and it's all set up. But the most important thing is that we assured our members that belong outside of the traveling area. For example, some people are in Paradise, California, or Truckee, Southern California. There's members. We assured them that we would have that capability so they could be continue part of our little club family. And that's important to remember, that when we talk about
that's going to be an issue for all of us to face, because I know many clubs, a number of clubs that I belong to, have members from all over the place that if you were only meeting in person, you might lose their membership. So it's going to be an issue we all need to figure out how to face.
We made that commitment to them that we will make sure that they can stay with us, and they're very happy about that. It's working out very well.
And Suzanne, I think I saw your hand, and then Melissa.
Go ahead. I think Melissa and I might be sharing the same thing. So go ahead, Melissa. Make your contribution. Go ahead.
We absolutely are sharing the same thing. I can see it in your eyes. Valley Toastmasters is having our first hybrid meeting at Romano's restaurant in Redlands tomorrow night. So we'll take good note and see how that goes. And I think the idea of bringing the experiences these clubs are having together into a Speakers Bureau presentation is fantastic for clubs to learn from.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Marilyn, I see.
Yeah, possibly, possibly there might be an article in the Toastmaster magazine, which is online now, about coming back.
Yeah, I would imagine they should be doing that for sure. Well, before we bang the gavel, if we had a gavel, before we bang the gavel to end this, there's one last thank you I must make, and that is a thank you to the audience, because without an audience, there's no reason for us to be here. So I want to thank you all for being here and encourage others to attend. And we will be coming up with what the program will be for next month, and hope to see you and more other Toastmasters come to this meeting.
Sorry, Tom.
Yes, Marilyn.
Ask one more question. Is actually my club did have one of the speakers here, Roz, and she did an excellent job at 2488. But are the speakers tonight available, upon request or whenever they're available to come to clubs?
If you want to get contact with them, we will.
We're not ready for Art's podcast yet, but
yeah. Well, I'm sure that there might be some that'd be available depending on the time frame and so on. So if you have a request, get to me. Oh, I see Jack is here. He's got a hand up. No, he does not have his hand up because he's hiding there. Okay, Jack. And with that last, I think we can. Don't know whether I'm seeing hands from Roz or not. You have a question, Roz? Or are you just waving goodbye? Okay. All right. Thank you all for being here again. And I want to also write this down in your notebook someplace. I actually ended a meeting before it was supposed to be over. So we actually got out of here on time instead of dribbling over that 9 o'clock.
Oh my gosh. Tom, are you seeing all this?
Tom, Kevin has taken over Speakers Bureau.
Kevin has taken over.
My nickname is Toastmaster.
Who's playing?
That's your
Oh
host.
my gosh. This is
Oh,
fun.
Kevin, this is good work.
Oh, this is your host doing this.
Oh, great.
Okay.
So fun.
I'm sorry, I just discovered that there's this new feature.
Oh, I thought it's Kevin. I'm like, wow.
Wow. This is fun.
Yeah, very cool.
Thank you, Sunny. Thank you, Sunny.
Thanks, Sunny.
Thank you, Sunny.
Huh?
I don't know what it is. It's a white background.
I like the frames one. That'd be good for a panelist.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, if you're on a computer, if you go to the upper right corner view, there's a new option, immersive, and there are several options there. I'm sorry, I did not realize everyone was seeing that. I thought I was just seeing it on my screen.
I don't have immersive.
No,
We don't
really?
all have immersive.
It was great.
What's on the corner, Sunny? Which corner?
The view.
The view menu and
view,
the
but
upper right in mine.
I think you have to be the host or something.
Oh,
You have to have the latest
Yeah.
update. You have to have the latest update.
I do, I thought, but okay, I'll check on it.
there are 9 different options there for immersive view.
Oh, wow.
Oh, good thing Kevin showed us how to update our Zoom.
Yes.
Thank you, Kevin.
That would be a neat way to
Excellent,
interview the contestants at a speech contest and frame them.
There you go.
Yeah, fun.
There you go.
All fun.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a much better way to see everybody too.
Yeah, and like in this one, people who have their camera off, they're up and smaller at the top. I kind of like that too. So,
Mhm.
anyway, okay, my apologies. All right. Was Tom, did you disappear?
He gavelled this out and left, I think.
All right.
Sunny, that would be a great way to, as we come on our screen, if you had, I like that special. I was in a booth there with Frankie and
Yeah.
was, yeah, like being at a concert or something. I was great fun. Great fun.
Yeah, good way to start the meeting.
Mhm.
Yeah, there are several different options here, so.
Are you making us dinner?
Right.
All righty, well, thanks for attending. I'm
All
gonna end
right.
the meeting now. Have a
Thanks, everyone.
good month.
right.
Bye-bye.
Great. Good job. All righty. Bye.
Bye-bye.